Number 5. Alien has notable and uncomfortable gender and sexual themes. Another important thing I would like to bring up about Alien is that of its themes of gender and sexuality. How it plays into its science fiction setting. Sci-Fi is certainly no stranger in dabbling with the topics of sexuality and such. Alien is notable because it's a film made with that aspect in mind. It almost wrote the textbook on using sexual motifs in science fiction horror films. The original Alien has spawned so much analysis on its portrayal of women like Weaver's Ellen Ripley, in addition to the other aspects of the alien in the film. Ugh, John Hurt does not get treated well here. Look, the subject matter here might be a little intense for what I'm trying to go for in this video. Creative choices in the movie and with the alien itself were made to feed off the sexuality-based fears of anybody who watches it. Well, any adult anyway. You see what I mean? Let me take the low road and point out the creature's long head, and long tail, and wet, wide, and scary mouth. Maybe there's a reason babies scream after plopping out of their mother. Number 6. It's first of many science fiction films to come out after Star Wars. That's post-1977.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
Alien is notable in the fact that it was one of the first in a big wave of science fiction blockbusters to come out after the massive success of Star Wars in the late 70s and early to mid 80s. The story of how the first Alien movie was made consists of different elements and people coming together, but here's an interesting factoid. 20th Century Fox didn't want to spend the money to make a science fiction movie like the one that was pitched. Once Star Wars came out and made gangbusters around the world and for the studio, they quickly changed their tune and almost greenlit the film immediately. Alien, along with its 1986 sequel Aliens, now stand as some of the best science fiction blockbuster films of that era. It's a great example of cashing in on a craze but offering something unique and new at the same time. I'm looking at you, Disney's black hole. What even are you? Number 7. It influenced other science fiction works in the years to come. Almost every dang element about Alien was adapted into other science fiction works over time. Many lower budget and derivative films released in the early half of the 1980s, but other creators were a bit more careful with their inspiration. A big example that comes to my mind is Nintendo's Metroid series, its first game being on the original Nintendo Entertainment System about 8 years after the release of Alien. The similarities are fascinating, considering that this was the house of Super Mario we're talking about. Maybe that's the old gaming nerd inside of me though. It just proves that nothing is original and that we're just a bunch of rip-off artists entertaining ourselves with nothing until we die to be forgotten. What? Okay, that does lead me to my next point though. Number 8. Alien is a rare mainstream negative portrayal of space exploration in science fiction.
Bring back life form. Priority 1. All other priorities rescinded.
If I may throw my own hat into the ring for a second, more so than I've already been doing, I think one of the more interesting aspects of Alien is that the first movie is very pessimistic about the future and how space exploration could be terribly exploited. Let me explain. When comparing Alien to something like Star Wars or even Star Trek, which I think would be the better example, but anyway, Alien is a bummer sci-fi future. There's no sense of optimism. Space travel takes months, and it doesn't seem immediately cool or fun. Yay. In space, there's nothing but companies and spaceships going about their business. Space travel in Alien is sort of like sailing across the sea in our real-world history. Star Trek had the same idea, and while that future is not without its problems, it has a mindset that was of its decade, with the space race and stuff like that. Big corporations in the world of Alien are unfriendly and show an unaccountable attitude towards their contractors.
Damn company. What about our lives, you son of a bitch?
I repeat, all other priorities are rescinded.
Ian Holmes' Ash character is revealed to be an android who was placed on the ship to retrieve the alien and take it back to Earth to be studied and weaponized. Films like Alien and even John Carpenter's The Thing were criticized early on as having a very negative view of extraterrestrial life, compared to films like E.T. I feel that Alien is a small but crucial point in media history. It represents the beginning of a shift where the future was starting to be perceived as bleak. Or at least that idea began to fascinate moviegoers and storytellers enough to be explored in movies like Alien. The film is also very Lovecraftian. It's just not as racist. What do you have against people, HP? We just like your cosmic tentacle daddy. For what it's worth, even though that Alien has an evil corporation in it, I wouldn't necessarily call the film cyberpunk. That's Blade Runner you're thinking of.